Your journey can only begin when the self-doubts stop. The first step is harnessing your bravery within. Believing in you is your host, Sean Dumas. Hello and good day to you all. My name is Sean, and I'd like to thank you for tuning into another Persevering as an Introvert episode of Bravery Within. Today is something special. This will be an actual listener-requested episode. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have let out with this one so close to the beginning of a new podcast, but I thought, the series needs to cover all angles, and after, an incredible conversation, I believe his name was Kevin, we talked for about 15 minutes one day, and we got on the subject somehow of being an introvert, and from there it led on to just what do I do with like negative emotions and everything else, because he said he keeps it bottled up, he doesn't know how to process it, being that introverts are a lot, very quiet, very, very private people. So I thought today, episode 4 is all about an introvert's anger. And like I said, this is a listener requested episode, so if there's ever something that you want to hear, you want me to talk about, and if I've got the information on it, absolutely, I'm going to talk about it and try to help all my extended family and friends out there. So today I thought I'd let you know anger it's probably one of the worst emotions. There's no doubt about that. I mean, yeah, you got greed, you got jealousy, you've got all kinds of them out there. But anger is pretty tough. People have a hard time dealing with it. They have a hard time processing it. So what I wanted to do is I thought I would go through and talk to you about some of the things that I run into. Because as an introvert, like I said, we all have a tendency to keep things locked up. We're not real big on asking for help. We're not real big on talking to people unless it's somebody that we really feel comfortable with. Then we'll jabber their ear off. But I know anger is not a good emotion, and not a lot really can come good of it. But sometimes you can turn some of that aggression around and turn it into a positive. And I have done that in my past when something is just very, very tough to get through, very, challenging. Work is challenging, home is challenging, life in general is challenging. But I've been able to figure out different ways of processing of my anger. But the way I was raised, I have to be honest, and I've said this a couple times throughout my other podcasts, is I was raised old school. And especially in the middle of Podunk where we are, there's still a lot of old-fashioned beliefs and ways of doing things that we do around here. Men, for the most part, were raised where you don't talk about your feelings, you don't process them, you compartmentalize them, you lock them away, and you just let them sit and fester, kind of like a sliver in your finger, until it just becomes unbearable, and then you find some horrible way of it just comes out and stuff. One thing that I've learned too with that there is that's not a good thing. And you probably figured that out already. But if you're somebody like me, that's the way I was raised, those old school beliefs, those old ways of doing things and stuff there, once you were raised that way, they're very, very difficult to change. You are basically changing the fundamentals of who you are. I don't think that you really get any deeper than that when you figure it out. So I've had to go back to school, and in this new way, there's a lot of old school things that I still like. There's still a lot of beliefs, honor and integrity, a man's word, respecting women, taking care of your family, paying your bills. There's a lot of old school stuff there that I still believe in, and I live and practice and preach it every day. But there's a lot of old school stuff that needs to fall away, and this is one of them that, when I was raising my son, I didn't want him locking everything up like what I do, and I don't process it, I don't deal with it, nothing there. And I raised him differently, that it is okay for a man to break down once in a while. You don't have to be the strength, you don't have to be the rock all the time. You have bad days. Men have bad days. But the thing that I struggle with is taking my own advice. And I admit, I'm not the best at it. And I've said many times, I'm a work in progress. Now, I have done pretty good about reversing a lot of the beliefs, the damage, the mental abuse that I took while growing up, I have done a pretty good job on reversing it. And I made sure that when I was raising my son that I never passed that on to him. He needed to find his own way for his own beliefs. I gave him core beliefs to, how a man acts, how a man carries himself, and everything there. But I grew up and, my dad and stuff there had a pretty good temper on him, and unfortunately that kind of rolled to me. And my fault is I'm an introvert, and then on top of it all, I'm a Taurus. So if you know anything about Tauruses, we are extremely stubborn, and we have very, very violent tempers. We're either good or we're bad. There doesn't seem to be a lot in between. And growing up, I had a lot of anger issues. I had a lot of problems, but back in those days, back in the 80s and stuff, you didn't really talk to anybody. You didn't do anything. And I was raised the way of, okay, well, you know what? Don't worry about it. You lock it away and be a man. You man up, and you just don't process it. You don't deal with it. You don't process it. You don't cry. You don't do anything. You just lock it away, and you just don't worry about it because it'll go away. That always burying your head in the sand always makes everything go away. And it's taken me a long time to turn around things and realize that that's not the healthy way of doing things. So as I was talking to Kevin about, how I process my anger and my, rage, I mean, we all have bad days. You just come home, you're mad, you just, you chuck something across the room because you're so mad. And I said, well, honestly, I'm not the greatest at it. I'm all or nothing. I'm fine. And then all of a sudden, the one little needle in the haystack all of a sudden pops, and then it sets everything off. And then everything for the past 30 years comes barreling out. I said, I'm not the greatest at this. And I'm still trying to find healthy ways of processing it. But one way that I did learn, and I had to learn very quickly, is when I stepped into the management ring. You have to be very, very careful with, not taking it out on your team. You have to stay level-headed. You have to always look like you gotta, basically put a smile on your face. You always gotta look happy because that's what helps pull you through. Your team relies on that, and that helps keep them leveled out. So I realized at a young age that I couldn't be aggressive and hostile because I was angry because things weren't going my way, or something at work was going wrong, or something at home was going wrong. I had to find a way to basically just bury it away and not worry about it. So I got very good at it, and I'm still very, very good at it. It takes a long time for me to start talking about anything that bothers me or upsets me. But I'm finding healthier ways of processing it and working through it. And I've talked to quite a few other people that are introverts like me, and they also struggle with anger and the negative emotions and what to do with them. Some people are very good at working through them, talking and making things better, but that's not my strong point. So, while going through this whole episode, I knew I was going to struggle with, telling people, okay, this is what you should do or what you shouldn't do, because I'm still working on it myself. But I've learned some little tricks to help, basically get myself through the day. But then he asked me another question that kind of like he said, well, how do people know when introverts are mad? Because we really don't show anything. We keep everything locked up. We don't really talk about it. And I said, that's actually a very, very good question. And it took me a little bit of time to figure out, okay, what are my telltale signs? If somebody knows, I mean, honestly, for the most part, you really don't know if I'm upset or if something's bothering me, or, if work's not going right. And I actually had to sit down and think about it, because I told him, I said, well, I didn't have an instant answer right for him right there on the spot. It threw me for a loop, to be honest. And it's like, how can people tell? So it took me a little time to figure this one out, but I sat down, and when I was writing out my notes for this podcast to help me through everything, these were some of the things that I do instead of, talking about my emotions or, processing them. These are the things that I do. And like I said, it took me a little bit to figure these out. But one of the things that I do is I slam things around. I slam cupboard doors. I slam cookware, drawers, anything that really sounds loud when you're mad. the louder the better, as long as it doesn't break or whatever. That's what I do. It can be just something simple as I could have dropped a piece of paper on the ground, and it just infuriates me because I've had a horrible day. So then I'll go and pull out a kettle out of the thing there, and as I'm pulling it out of the drawer and I put it on the cupboard or on top of the counter, I just smash it down. And sometimes I smash it a second time because it's my way of getting out my aggression. And it took me a little bit to realize that's what I do. It's, I take it out in inanimate objects. It's like those poor things. I'm shocked that some of the pans that we have still hold together. Now, granted, I don't have a lot of anger. I do really good at it. I let most everything just roll off my back. But there are times that things get to me. And so Kevin, that's one of them, the way I do it there. Another one is I yell at inanimate objects. My poor computer and keyboard, sometimes when I'm typing up these notes and stuff, or I'm paying bills, or I'm just writing, and my fingers, there's a disconnect between my brain and my fingers saying, okay, I need to type this. And then my fingers will say, I don't think so. And it's like, wait a minute, where's the disconnect? And so it's like, then I'll start smashing my keyboard, or I've just learned that when I get that way, that I just need to walk away before I have to go and buy another $70 keyboard to make things work. Or yell. There's been many times like when I drive around in the hills, I'll get out and I'll yell at a tree. They don't care. They just kind of sit there and take it. They really can't go anywhere, but they they take it. But I'll yell at inanimate objects. It's kind of crazy, but I find that's better than yelling at people. I can't take it out on the people that I love, the people that are around me, my family, my friends. I have, and I'm not saying this, is to be proud of it, but I have very powerful emotions. Being as sensitive that I am, and I know that sounds funny, but being as sensitive as I am, my emotions are they're so much more powerful. There's so much more behind them, that when I start venting or it all starts coming out, it's almost like I can't stop. It's like it's like the Hoover Dam just explodes and all the water comes out. Well, that's my emotion. So I have to be really, really careful with who I talk to and how I vent, because once I start venting, I can't quit. It doesn't matter whether I hurt somebody. It doesn't matter whether I tear them down. It doesn't matter if I'm cussing at them or what it is. And it's not directed at them, but it's the only way that I can process my emotions and get them out and be able to work through them. And there's been so many times there that I've done it. I think I've lost 3 or 4 friendships because of it, because they kept poking and kept asking, what's wrong? Got to talk to me. What's wrong? Talk to me. And the more you do that, the more you're just infuriating me even more. If I'm not going to talk to you after the first time that you've asked, I'm not going to talk to you. I need time, because I have to find a way to be a healthy way of releasing my anger and my emotions. And the more you push, and the more it's kind of like, you keep pressing like on a pimple, and sooner or later then it finally pops, but it's all super red and swelled up, and you look like, oh my goodness sakes, what happened for 3 days? It's kind of the same way, and that's how I process my anger. It's not the best way to do it, and like I said, I'm still learning myself, but I'll yell at inanimate objects. I'll go out and that's why I like going up in the hills, because nobody can hear me. The trees don't care. The grass doesn't care. But it's a healthy outlet, so I don't hurt anything. I don't say anything. It just helps me out. And then there's the extreme, absolute opposite of that is I completely shut down. This always happens before I'm ready to explode, and I don't care who's in my way or what I say. But when I shut down and I quit talking, it's like, oh boy, okay, get out of here. The bomb is going to go off. That's the best way to do it. That's my way of basically protecting the people that I love. So I don't explode on them, so I don't say things that I'm going to regret. And because once things are said, you can't take them back. They're out there forever. It's not like you can go back and hit the delete button and take away all the words and the mean things that you said. So I'm really careful about that. So for me, being able to talk to somebody is almost impossible, because when I start venting, I vent, and I haven't run really into anybody that can handle it when I explode, and I don't want to do that. it. I don't want to lose any friendships. I don't want to lose, I don't want to hurt anybody. So for me, the best thing to do is just walk away and get away from people. Another thing that I do when I'm angry is I deny everything and I state that nothing's bothering me. Okay, I'm fine. And I got a friend that tells me every time that she tells me that when I say I'm fine, she goes, "Oh, no, you're not. We need to talk." Because whenever I use those two words, normally I'm not fine, and you probably do the same thing, but that's my basic way of saying, okay, you're encroaching on a very, very bad area, and I don't want you to get hurt in the process there. And I need time to find a way to say things to get the anger out in a good way, so it's not so harsh and not so brutal. So you just have to kind of just give me time to settle down and figure it out. I'm very good at pushing everyone away, and I demand doing just everything myself. All of a sudden, I may start cleaning, or I may start, slamming things around, or just anything. It's just like just stay away. Don't bother me. Don't. Just stay clear. That's all I can say, and that's why I push everyone away. It's for their protection, because I care about them, and it's probably not the best way of doing it. But I found I've talked to other introverts, and they do the same thing. It's because we're processing. That's the best way to put it. Is we're just processing everything. It's probably not the healthiest way to do it, and there's probably going to be therapists that listen to this podcast and they go, you know what? Yeah, you need some help. and they're probably right. I'm not going to argue. They're the ones that went to school. They're the smart ones. They know everything. I'm not. I'm just a 40-hour-a-week man that's trying to hold things together while everything falls apart. I don't have a piece of paper on the wall saying this is the best way to do it or the best way to process it or anything like that. So never mistake that I'm somebody smart or intelligent. All I can do is just give you years of experience of School of Hard Knocks. That's all I've got. The last thing that I had to figure out, and stuff took me a little bit, is I'll break and destroy objects to get anger out. I never do it while people are around, and I try to make sure that it's nothing real valuable. But yeah, there's been a couple printers that have met the ravage of a hammer, or I've broken a 2x4 in half with a hammer because I've been so mad. Or I just try to find things that, if I have to get it out, that it's not going to cost much, and I'm certainly not going to hurt anybody. But being, like I said, being an introvert, you keep everything compartmentalized. You keep it internal. You don't talk. You don't ask for help. You're very private. So processing anger is probably extremely tough for us. Our extrovert friends and stuff, they're wonderful. They're happy. They let it out. They're angry. They let it out. If they're, confused, they let it out. They're lucky. They have an outlet for it because people are used to them being, loud, being the center of attention, being who they are. And many times I envy them especially in this area, because they don't keep it bottled up. They just let it roll, and they're lucky. Unfortunately, I'm not that way, and then I was raised even more to keep it locked up. So basically, you have a vault, as all of our introverts are, and we keep everything locked up in that vault. Well, the way I was raised is I have a vault in that vault, so you got two layers of basically not processing anything. So everything in that second layer, basically, like I said, is like a sliver, and it's just sitting there and just festering and festering and festering. You can't touch your finger after a while, and it's all red, and that's kind of how your feelings get to at some point. And then basically that makes me mad, because it's like, well, I should be able to control these emotions. I shouldn't let them bother me, and here they are bothering me. So then that makes me even more angry, and it's just kind of like a circle. And I'm sure there's psychologists that are listening to this, and they're out there and they're screaming at their radio right now and stuff. They're saying, you know what? There's a healthy way of processing this, and I absolutely agree with them. There's no arguments there. I know there's a healthier way of processing and getting through these, and that's not in dispute. I've never disputed that. But this is the way that I process them. This is the way that I deal with them. And all I can do is for my friends and family that are listening to this, everybody that's out there, everybody that listens to my podcast, you're all family. this is the way I deal with it. This is the way I process it. It doesn't mean it's the best way, but maybe it'll give you an idea of, okay, well, maybe I could do it this way, or maybe I can do it better. And that's what I hope for, is learning from my ups and downs what works and what doesn't. So hopefully it'll help you and keep some stress off of you. That's what I do the podcast for. But when all is said and done, I mean, that's the way I was raised, and I keep saying that, and I have done very good at about learning, okay, well, I can't do that anymore. It's not a healthy way, and I'm getting better about talking to people. I am getting better of not letting things bundle up quite so bad. I am nowhere near close to being complete on this, and I probably won't be until they put me in the ground. It's a goal for me, is to talk to people, just people that I absolutely trust, that I know that can handle this, and let them help me through it, because maybe they know of a better way, or maybe they've been down the road, so then we can exchange notes, so to speak, and make things better. So that way I don't keep all this anger and aggression built up. But until I can figure out the best way of doing it, for me, it's isolating myself up in the hills alone and not letting anybody near me. And there's times I'll go up in the hills for all day, and I just hang out, and I park the truck, and I take something to eat, because I'm going to be up there for a while. And like I said, I'll stand there and I'll scream, or I'll throw a temper tantrum, or sometimes, yes, okay, I'm a guy and I'm raised old school. There's times that I break down in tears. I get so mad, and it's been bottled up for so long that I can't do nothing but cry. And then all that does is make me upset, and then I get even more angry. So anger is one of the most complex emotions that you're going to get, and your body goes through so much trying to get it out of your system. And being somebody like me that was raised on old school beliefs, is you never do any of this stuff. Well, that's one thing that I like about kind of the new way, the new world. That is one good thing that I have found in this new world, is they're allowing men to show a little bit of a weak side, to be able to get help processing these complex emotions. You can talk to people. You're not such an outcast anymore. In my area where I live, it's still voodoo to admit that you cry once in a while, or you have feelings, or you talk about it. And I have a few male friends and stuff there that have felt comfortable talking to me, because they know I don't ridicule them, I don't talk down to them, I don't think anything less of them, because they have emotions. We're all given emotions for a reason, and you experience the good ones, the happiness, the joy, the love, and everything else. But to know that, you have to have the other side, which is anger and hatred and jealousy. You have to have yin and yang. You have to have both of them, so you understand which one each one is. Now, I'm not saying that it's good. That's the way we're built. There's no way around it. I mean, I've tried, honestly. I've tried to find a way. I don't want these emotions anymore. Well, unless I'm going to become Data in Star Trek and not have any emotions, it's just not going to happen. That's just the way we are built. So I just had to find different ways and different coping mechanisms to get myself through this anger and stuff. And I had so much anger and so much hostility built up after my divorce, and having to take everything on, and making sure my son was taken care of. I was so terrified that I was going to do the wrong thing with him, and I wasn't going to be able to take care of him. And the overall stress on men, I don't think is ever fully acknowledged and accepted, because of all the demands that are placed on us constantly. And the thing that confuses me the most is, and I've had lots of friends, and I've had lady friends and stuff there that tell me, oh, we love a sensitive man. We love a man that will break down in our arms and cry and everything else. And then I've had them exactly say that, and then they come back after a man has done that, and they say, we don't like it. We don't handle it. They need to keep it. They need to go back to normal. They need to keep their emotions locked up. That's the only way we like them. Well, you can't have both ways. And that's why I think us men are so confused on it. It's like, we don't know if we can talk about anything. We don't know if we can show our feelings or emotions. So it's just safer to keep it all locked up, and then just let people just say, well, why don't you ever let it out? Why don't you ever talk to somebody? Why don't you ever show your emotions? Because we don't know how it's going to be taken. We don't know how you're going to receive it. And I've tried with a couple people where I've let out my feelings, my emotions, my anger, and everything else, and it has never been received well. So I have just learned to lock it all away and just be done. I don't even want to try anymore. But I wanted to raise my son differently, and everybody that comes into my house knows this is a judgment-free zone. It does not matter how you are. It does not matter how you're feeling. You bring those feelings in. You want to talk about it. I don't care if you want to sit there on my couch for a half hour and call me every possible horrible name under the sun. If that's what it helps to get your emotions out so you can process them, you can start to heal and start to move forward, I'm all for it. I don't take it personally. I can weather it. I got big shoulders. I can, it's no problem. And I've had plenty of people that absolutely unload on me. And then they've turned around after that and they felt better, their demeanor, they relax, they can sleep again, and sometimes they'll ask for advice. I'll give them advice. I try not to while they're doing it. I just want them to get it off their chests and so they feel better. But then they ask why I don't. And there's been times where I start to talk to somebody, so I let about 10% out of the bottle and just start talking, and my emotions are so powerful and so overwhelming. They're sitting there like they're looking at a tornado that is 3 feet away from them, sucking them up, and their eyes are the size of silver dollars, and they're just sitting there, and I've had some just trembling because I scare them so bad. And I said, that's only 10% of my emotions. Imagine if I ramped it up to 50%. I said, that's why I can't talk to anybody, because when I start talking and it starts coming out, it's here. There's no stopping it. So I just learned just to keep it bottled up. But I'm trying to find different ways, healthy ways to relieve some of the stress, to relieve some of the anger. So some of the things that I have done in the past that helps me out is when I get to that point, I listen to really, really loud music, either at home, I have a very expensive system, or I listen to it in the truck. And it really, really helps me. And most of the time when I'm up in the hills, I crank the music, I roll the windows down, and I just crank it as loud as I possibly can get it, because it helps me. Because most of the time when I'm doing that, then I'll sing along to the music, but I don't just sing along in a low voice. I'm like yelling the whole song out, and I have found that helps me basically get that aggression out of my body, and it allows me, after a couple songs and my voice is completely hoarse and I can barely talk anymore, I feel relieved. I feel really, really drained, because all of that come out of me, and my truck doesn't care, the steering wheel doesn't care, the dash doesn't care, it just sits there and take it, and we continue to roll down the road, and it helps me. The drives in the hills are probably the single most thing that helps me the most. And I've had a lot of friends that they go with me on friends or on drives. They go on their own now, which is remarkable, because some wouldn't even leave town, and now they're out there bebopping around by themselves out in the hills, out in the back area, and they come to realize that is so therapeutic. I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. And it's very, very cheap, really. The most that you got into it is some gas. Well, if your mental status and state and everything else isn't worth $10 in gas, then we're in trouble, because it is. And there's time, and I have burnt up half, 3/4 of a tank. That's $50 to $75. Well, it doesn't matter whether, consider it a therapy session if that's the way you want to look at it, because to me that is my therapy. I'll go up in the hills and I'll hike around, I'll walk around. Sometimes I just sit on my tailgate and just listen to the animals. I listen to nature. It's amazing, because they're so good at taking all this hostility and anger out on me. So I do that as much as I can. As I'm always up in the hills trying to enjoy life as much as I can. I write in a journal, or I work on my books. Like I said before, I'm a published author, self-published. I don't have an agent that represents me, but I wanted to share my writings with the world. And in the writings, in the books, there's a lot of times that it helps me deal with a lot of the darkness of my life, the bad things that happen to me. That was my way of taking negatives and turning it into a positive. I worked on my books, and there's only a couple people that know me very very, very deeply, which is my son, of course. There's very little he doesn't know about me. My friend Rebecca, that has been on the show and stuff there, she knows me pretty well. I have, a friend that's learning about me, and I'm learning about him. Chris, he's amazing. We're doing a lot of talking, and it helps me work through things. But the people that know me and getting to know me so well, when they read my books, they can see so much of me in them. And I said that's because instead of always writing in a journal and writing so much negative stuff, I wanted to find a way to turn it into a positive, which in turns it helps me, but yet I get it out. So you're not just writing all darkness like you can do with a journal. Now, it's good to get it out. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with journals. And like I said, I still write in them. But I wanted to find a healthy way of doing it. So at the time when I first started writing my books, what I did is I just started working the darkness that's into me, and I turned it into paranormal and supernatural beings. And, I love werewolves. They're one of my favorite things, yes. I know they're out there. You can laugh all you want to. I know werewolves exist. There's no doubt about it. But to me, I write about them, but I don't write about them in a horrible way. I write about them in a loving, caring, family way. Yes, there's still blood and there's still guts and everything else, because that's what werewolves are, but for the most part, they believe in family. They believe in being there for each other. And that's what I was lacking at the time. Was I didn't have that foundation. So I wrote it into my books, and what that did is that helped me get it out in a very, very healthy way. And, I'm proud of my books. I mean, and I've written a different book that's not part of the series. I didn't publish it. I just don't have the money or the time right now and stuff there to publish another book. But I'm really proud of that book. It's my longest book. It's almost 80,000 words. So, I was really proud of that book because there's so much in it there. It's a lot darker book than what my Wolf Point series is, but it still allowed me to explore new ways of seeing things and doing things, so that helps. I meditate. I know people probably think that's funny. Really, Sean, you meditate? What's wrong with you? You're old school. Well, lo and behold, meditation actually has a lot of healing properties, and it helps you process things. It allows you to think through things, because basically you shut it all off, and that's what you need. Sometimes your mind has been running at max for so long, it needs a break to be able to process new things and work through new things. And the best way to do that is through meditation. I'm not the best at it. I'm still trying to learn, and there's some days that I try to meditate and I can't get my mind to shut off. But on the days that I can get it to work, it really does help. I feel rested. I feel a lot more relaxed. It just helps me out. Might be something, for you to try. Try and talk to a friend. I'm not real good in that area. I'm okay, and I'm learning how to be better, mainly because when I talk to somebody, when you're talking about, powerful emotions, like what I have and stuff, and you have too, anger and love and lust and jealousy and, all of that stuff, that is very powerful. And when you start talking about it, you're actually letting somebody into your inner workings of who you are and what makes you who you are. And if you're somebody like me, I have tried talking to several people in the past, and they always seem to use it against you once they learn it about you, and they tear you down by using your own pain against you. So it takes me a long time before I start opening up to somebody. But, that's another good thing. Talk to a friend, talk to a family member, talk to a religious person, official there that you feel comfortable with. Most of them are going to be there to try to help you, and that's a very, very healthy and safe way of processing these powerful emotions. Like I said before, I try to go for a hike. I try to wear myself out. Sometimes you just try to work, basically work out. I know some people do that, but for me, a hike is good. A walk is good. Walk fast. Sometimes I look like and I'm just running down the road. I'm not running, but I'm sure walking fast. But that helps wear out some of those, those negative emotions. But one thing that I try to do before all of that is I try to step back before I get too in range, and I try to settle myself down. That it's really, really hard, and it's really, really key. I've actually stopped myself from getting so wound up many, many times by doing it. But the trick is knowing when to step back and when not to. Especially, a lot of people get in an argument there, and the last thing they want to do is lose when you've went to battle in an argument. But I have found it's not worth it. It's just better to step back and take a break, breathe, breathe a little bit, walk around, whatever it is. To me, those are just healthy and safe ways to process, these powerful emotions. But then once all said and done, I walk away, and it may take a couple, 3 days or whatever. But what I try to do is I try to go back and I try to figure out the trigger that set me off, and I try to avoid that in the future. It's not always easy to try to figure it out there, and it's not always easy to avoid those triggers, because it seems like certain people out there just are able to flip that switch and just upset you. But I'm finding better ways of avoiding it. If I know heading into a situation that, okay, this isn't going to turn out well, I'm not saying I bury my head in the sand and I avoid whatever the problem is, but sometimes you can take an alternate route at it, and it's not going to not wind you up so bad. It's not going to upset you quite so bad. But there's no easy answer. And one thing that, and I was told this many times growing up, is basically, if this gets to be too much and it's too overwhelming and you have nowhere, basically you just don't know how to do this anymore, talk to a therapist. And I know everybody's sitting out there going, oh, for goodness sake, Sean, really, you're going to lead to this? Actually, yes. I've had plenty of friends I have went through it, and some of them are still seeing a therapist over this. I actually was going to go to school to become a psychologist and a therapist. I wanted to help kids. I wanted to be a school counselor and a school teacher. And I wanted to try to help kids as they're running through and they're experiencing these emotions for the first time in their life. And when you're ramped up on teenage hormones, all of this stuff is even worse. And I wanted to try to help them through. I wanted to try to walk them through how to process these things, how to take it, basically get it out of you in a healthy way. I was just dumb, and I didn't finish college. I started it, but I didn't finish it, and I really regret that, because I really enjoy helping people, and I think I would have enjoyed that, so much. But I know introverts don't like asking for help, and I'm one of them, and I get told that constantly of, well, you never ask for help, you don't let anybody in, how come you're telling everybody else to do it? Because it's the right thing to do. Even though I may not always do the right thing, I try very, very hard, but it takes a long time for me to trust somebody enough there to allow them in and talk to somebody, because like I said, my emotions are extremely powerful, and some of them are 30 years old. They've just sat there in that vault, and they've just festered and festered and festered, and I'm so afraid that if I start talking about it and let them out, that I'm not going to be able to stop. And probably when you break it all down and you think about it, it's probably would be the best thing for me is to get them out and don't let them stop. Let them basically process them, get them pushed through, get them done, and get them out, so you can start healing and you can start moving forward. Now, I have started doing that. A lot of times it's basically just accepting it, and like I said, when I'm on the drives in the hills and stuff, I'll talk about it to try to move forward. But some of us need to talk to a licensed professional, and that's fantastic. I so envy you for being able to take that step and talk to somebody and let them help you professionally, because those people do know what they're doing. They have been through 8 years of school. They've been through lots and lots of years of counseling, and it's a good thing. And it's us introverts have to learn to accept help once in a while. I know we're not the best, but we sure do try. I guess one of the things that, the best thing to do is to keep trying. Keep trying to, show forward progress. But all I can say is it's okay if you need to talk to somebody and talk to somebody professionally. That's fantastic. Don't ever think of it as a weakness. Don't ever think that you're not strong enough, because those people are there for a reason, and we have complex emotions. They're powerful, complex emotions. So it's okay to talk to them. Take the time, show yourself a little bit of self-love, be gentle on yourself. We go through so much every day, and there's so much negativity, and there's so much there's so many bad things in this world anymore. It really drives me nuts. And that's why I'm hoping with these podcasts that you're going to be able to find some good in them. You're going to be able to find something positive in them. Maybe you'll see things, in a little bit different way, or maybe some of the things that I have went through will help you in your life. That's all I can hope for. I know I'm not the best at it, and like I said, I'm not a licensed anybody. I don't have any fancy initials after my name saying I'm smart. And I went to school and all that stuff. All I have is just school of hard knocks knowledge. And I'm hoping that maybe somewhere some of this stuff might be able to help you a little bit, might be able to help you hang on for another day. There's so many good things out there. Always try to look for the good, but just show yourself a little. Give yourself a break. We go through so much, and there's so much to process that it's just give yourself a little bit of a break. Make things a little bit better. Make sure you create a healthy environment, a positive, a safe environment. That's like what my house is. I mean, yes, I podcast out of my house. I'm sitting at the counter right now talking to you. But it's a safe zone. Everybody that has come into my house and stuff, they enjoy coming in and sitting down because they feel safe. They feel like, the world is just basically fading away. And that's what I want. And yes, and I know in some of these podcasts, in almost every podcast, we live right by a busy road. So I know you're hearing the boom, boom of all the vehicles, and I try to edit that out as best as I can. But but it's still a safe haven for me. This is where I feel to de-stress. And to make things better, to help myself work through problems. And that's what you want to set up at your house too, to process the anger and everything else. So it'll allow you to. But like for me, honestly, probably one of the two things that help me the most are my drives in the hills to go and get it out, and then to write either in the journal or I start working on another book in the hopes of maybe someday I'll find an agent that will want to work with me and publish my books big time. That's what I do to try to make things a little bit better. Now, like I said, it may not be the right thing, and I'm sure there's probably therapists that have listened to this and they're on the other side of the speaker, and they're probably hoarse from yelling at me through the radio, and I'm sorry you feel that way. All I can do is, I'm not above, go get help, go talk to somebody. I think it's fantastic. Don't think less of yourself. Those people are there to help you, and I absolutely think you need to. If you have to, go right on ahead. Don't be embarrassed. Go ahead and just help yourself out. Give yourself a little bit of a break, but it'll all work out. For me, that's what I keep telling myself. It'll work out. It'll get better. So I always try to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. Things get a little bit better when you look at it from a positive point of view. But like I said, I'm not perfect at this, guys. I'm still a work in progress myself. I don't have all this stuff figured out either. I am just hoping that these podcasts will do something to try to help you a little bit. If there is something that, it is helping, or you want to know about a little bit more, keep in mind, you guys can email me anytime. You can send it over to SeanGMorris@gmail.com, and I would be more than happy to help you. Or maybe I know somebody that can help you, or they might have a recommendation or something like that. Just anything to try to help out. That's what you guys are, my extended family, and I want to try to help you. I want to try to build you up. I want to be there for you and support you in any way that I can. So just smile a little bit more, find ways of being optimistic, and when you start doing that, I found, instead of being so negative and looking at things the bad way, things actually do get better. Things are easier to get through. You're going to be able to jump over hurdles a lot easier. You're going to be able to sleep a little bit better. Just give yourself a little bit of a break. The world's hard enough to get through, so don't push so hard on yourself. And us introverts, honestly, we are so hard on ourselves anyway by keeping things locked up and not talking to anybody. We make everything so much more difficult because of that. So find somebody you can talk to. Find somebody you can be open with. I know it's not easy. You're talking to the king of not talking to anybody right here. But just given time, you do get people that do want to genuinely talk to you, listen to you, and not use that against you should you go two separate ways. They're out there, and if all else fails, talk to a therapist. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. So I'm going to kind of end the podcast there. I hope there's something in this podcast here that will help you, that will make you hopefully smile a little bit more. Maybe you'll see things a little bit differently. Take some of the things that I do, and maybe they will help you. re-listen to this podcast. If you missed a few things, I think that'll be, anything to try to help. That's the only reason I do it. I don't do it for any other reason but to help you guys out. So remember, you got this. I believe in you. If you believe in yourself too, things will get a lot better for you. Positive thoughts will help you get through the day. Just always remember that when things are going wrong, just think of, think of something positive. Think of a good memory. Think of a happy day that you're on, and it does help. Put in that song that you can really sing along to, because it helps me. A lot of times when I'm leaving work, that radio's cranked, so that way I can get all the hostility and the anger out for the day and the pressure, and that way when I get home I can enjoy things a little bit more. And while you're doing all that and you're listening to my podcast, make sure you like, you subscribe, make sure you share, please comment. I want to know what you guys are thinking. On certain ones you can put like 5 stars. I hope you put 5 stars to say, hey, the show's pretty good. Do whatever you can to help share. Tell people about it. Tell your friends, your family, everything there, because what that does is that moves me up in the search algorithms, and then we get to add more new family members to our current family. We get to help more people. That's what I'm doing this for. I'm not doing it for any other reason but to try to help people and be there for them and show them, hey, you've got this. You're going to make this. So just make sure you take time. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube page. That's a huge thing. All the shows are all lined up in there. We have a brand new series that's coming out here. It's probably going to be another 3 weeks before we actually get it out and up and running. It's called The Honorable Warrior. It's going to be all about helping men and their mental health issues, the things that we go through. Yes, there's going to be some episodes for ladies and stuff in there, but it's going to be all centered around basically men and helping them through this rough new world that we're all going through, where a lot of our ways don't work anymore. So us men are struggling to try to find how to get through stuff, how to process things, how to just be accepted as a man anymore. So we're going to be talking about it, and the neat part about it is I have 3 friends that are going to be part of it. This isn't going to be just me talking all the time. I actually going to have a total of 4 people on this podcast. I'm really, really excited about it. I'm going to be part of it. Shelly's going to be a part of it. Alex is going to be a part of it, and Chris is going to be a part of it. All 4 of us, we're getting stuff set up. We're going to be setting up I believe we're setting up a new Facebook page for it all. It's going to be all under Bravery Within, and you're going to be able to find it on the YouTube page. It's going to basically be a YouTube exclusive for now, because I only have so much time on my Buzzsprout website that I got to work with, and these new ones are going to be a lot longer from what we're figuring. They could be an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours in length, and I just don't have that much time for podcasts on my Buzzsprout link. So we're going to be running it all through our YouTube channel, my YouTube channel. It's all going to be in there. It'll have its own section and everything else. We're in the process of putting all of this stuff together. So if you have questions, or if there's something that you want us to talk about or anything like that there, please let us know. We're in the process of putting together episodes currently right now, and we're working through a few things. I'm really, really excited to be able to share this new podcast with my family. These are people that are so very close to me, and I think the world of them, and I'm excited to be able to do this podcast with them. We're hoping to still have folks come on and talk, have interviews and everything else there. I'm hoping my friend Brian, my truck driving friend, he will be on the podcast there, and we'll get him a microphone and he can talk more and stuff. His new episode is coming out on Tuesday. I believe it's called Eating with a Truck Driver. It was intriguing to see how he handles weight loss and maintaining and exercise and everything else while being a 70-hour-a-week truck driver. It was very, very, I learned so much from him. He was amazing to have on the show. I'm going to try to have him on another weight loss show again here, basically a part 2, but I'm really excited about The Honorable Warrior coming out. I think we're going to have some neat things we're going to talk about on there. Anything to try to help because men are so tore down anymore. We don't know what to do anymore. We're so beaten up, and I want to try to find ways to help them, build them back up, so we can keep persevering through all of this stuff. So I'm going to end the podcast there. I'm looking at the time on the monitor, and I'm pretty well out of time. So, as always, right here on my screen. Oh, look at that. Dad joke of the day. Oh, you thought you weren't going to hear it, but I'm not going to let this go without telling you guys. Come on now, you know that. So, for the final thing today in the podcast, here's the dad joke of the day. Do you know how mice floss their teeth? They use string cheese. I told you they get better. They're getting better and better with every episode. You know that. You love them. Thanks so much for listening in. Remember, comment, like, subscribe, all that stuff, anything to help us out there. And remember, you got this. I'm always behind you. All my love and support.